I'm Igor Kayfetz, and this is the List Building Lifestyle, a podcast for those who want to build a large profitable email list and make six figures from anywhere in the world. If you would like to get rich by building a large email list while helping people, this podcast is for you. I also invite you to attend a free web class I'm conducting this week to find out how I built a list of 4,331,656 email subscribers at a profit. Secure your free seat at igor.cx. Attend this free workshop to discover an easy way to get 50 to 500 new email leads per day on complete autopilot without losing tons of money. Just go to igor.cx to attend this free web class. And now, once again, it's time to claim your list building lifestyle. Welcome back to another episode of the List Building Lifestyle with your host, Igor Kayfetz. And today, joining me in the virtual studio, or the virtual coffee shop, if you will, the number one emailer in the network marketing education space, a person who used to write emails for the Magnetic Sponsoring Company and now for the Elite Marketing Pro. He's literally mailing millions upon millions of emails each and every single month in the network marketing education space. My friend, Vitaly Greenblatt. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Igor. Thanks for having me. My pleasure to be here.
Trust me, the pleasure is all mine because, and I sincerely say that, it's not every day that I get to host someone who's operating in what I would say is a very, very competitive space, as well as a space that is not as receptive to marketing messages as most other spaces. For example, if we were talking about mailing out, promotions in the health niche, right? Those promos will be more receptive by the prospects because, they're just looking to get rid of the pain. Now, in the network marketing space, people kind of try to make money, but at the same time, they have so many beliefs that get in the way that, when you sell them something, they rebel against it. So you're now probably one of the best in the world in that industry when it comes to email marketing and maybe even copywriting as well, because, although I haven't seen much of your copy, I've definitely been reading your emails every day. So I'm really excited to pick your brain about email marketing specifically and probably direct response in general. So to launch us into this interview, why don't you give our listeners, who we gently call list builders, the brief, 2-minute or 5-minute version of how you got into email marketing in the first place?
Sure. So I'll give you the brief version. So I came from the world of direct sales and network marketing. I got started back in 1995 at a young age of 19. Came to, if any of your listeners know what network marketing is, you go to a meeting, usually a hotel meeting or an office meeting, and, you hear about making money and you get really excited. And that's how I got into that business. And I did that for 11 years. And during that time, all I did pretty much, it was a direct sales company that sold financial products and services, and we did it the old traditional way. You pick up the phone, you prospect, you meet people, you make phone calls, you knock on doors, you go into businesses. I mean, I did that for many, many years. Did in-home presentations in the evening, drove all over my state and some other states as well. And so the thing is that I'm an introvert by nature. So I went into a business that's really made for extroverts and I was extremely introverted, and I was scared to death to pick up the phone and all of that. But I did it because I had the desire to make money. And even though I struggled for a number of years, eventually I got good at all that stuff. And I was doing well. I was making money. And but what I found after myself in is after 10 years, I was really sick and tired of doing all that manual labor. And so one day I get home and I find a little mailer in my mailbox that says, and I was looking for it recently. I couldn't find. I wish I still had that. It was basically a sales letter, but it looked like a booklet. And the gist of it was that you can make money online without ever having to leave your home, without ever having to pick up your phone, without ever having to sit down in front of a customer, a prospect, and overcome objections. And it was like, it was music to my ears because It's like you can make sales and you don't have to do all that stuff that I've been doing for almost 11 years.
It's funny how it hasn't changed. I mean, the actual angle, really right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But I mean, I literally stayed up that night. I ordered the information, and this was before digital downloads were available or online streaming videos and all of that. So it was a physical DVD that I would get in the mail, and I sat there every day opening my mailbox waiting for it to to arrive. And when I got it, I stayed up at night watching it till like 2, 3 in the morning. And so that's how I got into this crazy world of internet marketing. And I started learning about direct response. And that was back in the end of 2005, early 2006. And so I decided at that point that I was going to leave that other business and jump into this. And that's what I started doing back in 2005, 2006. I sold info products, affiliate products, did a lot of affiliate stuff, ClickBank stuff, learned about CPA marketing, bought a lot of traffic on Google. I got involved in Google AdWords, really studied that and was spending a lot of money on Google. And by 2009, 2010, I got to a point where I was actually making 6 figures and life was pretty good. I was sitting at home running ads. I was building a list, and I've heard all the things about, the money's in the list. And I literally took it that, hey, if you build a list and the money's just going to come, which I learned that it's not really how it works. There's a little bit more that you have to do than just build a list. But everything was going really, really well until one day I get a letter from Google that says that my account is banned or shut down. I'm suspended and I'm banned for life because I broke.
What a surprise!
What a surprise, right? But it was to me. Now picture this. This is June of 2010. We had 3 kids. I have twins, 2 6-month-old twins at the time, and a 7-year-old going to private school. We just bought a home a year before, so big mortgage, car payments. Certain lifestyle, and my income, like 95% of my income is gone overnight because most of my income came from Google AdWords. And so I was depressed for a couple of weeks. And then, I'm not going to go back to a job, and I certainly wasn't going to go back to my old direct sales business. So I started thinking, well, what am I going to do? And so I have this list, right, that I'm sending emails, but I'm not really getting much response because most of the sales came on the front end from the Google ads that I was running. And so I was thinking, why don't I start sending them emails, more emails, and get better at this stuff? And so at first, I just thought I'd model what I thought the quote-unquote gurus were doing. And I just started sending them all kinds of pitches. Every email was a pitch for a ClickBank product, for a CPA product. I mean, I literally burned my list to death and exhausted it in like 6 months or less. And I made some money, but most people unsubscribed, became completely unresponsive. And so I figured out that that's not working. And so I got into other things like blogging, and I did a little bit of SEO consulting and social media consulting because Facebook was becoming hot at that point, and I did that for local businesses. But the idea of sending emails really was interesting to me because I knew that yes, there is money in the list. I just had to crack that code. And so I started learning about email marketing, and I quickly figured out that it's not just about sending people emails. It's what you say in those emails. It's the relationship that you build with your list. It's the value, and I know we'll talk a little bit about that today, or a lot if you want, the value that you provide in those emails is going to make people want to open those emails, read them, and eventually consume your content and your products and your recommendations. And so I made that shift, and here's what's happened. This is early 2011. For the first time, I was getting actually replies from the emails that I sent from my list, from the few people that were still on it that were actually reading my emails. And they were like, wow, we really like what you wrote. I agree with you, or I don't agree with you. And so I was getting interaction. And I was actually getting a response from people. And that made me rethink this whole idea of how email marketing should be. And so I developed some philosophies around that. And that's when I really jumped into email marketing and have been basically emailing the right way ever since.
Wow, that's incredible. So, it's interesting how most list builders I talk to, most people who have succeeded in it, myself included, by the way, like we always end up burning our first list. Like it's just inevitable. We're so giddy with, just let's mail the list, let's make some money, mail. And eventually we just burn it out. And only then, through sheer experience, we learn, okay, well, maybe there's a different way to communicate. And you mentioned the word value. Okay, now this is a word that is often, kind of misinterpreted by most people. They think value is hard teaching. What is value to you? What do you define as value when you email your list?
I love this question. So I'm really glad we're going to tackle that because I'm not going to say that I'm right because I think I'm right. But, there's no right or wrong. It's just this is my opinion and this is what works for me. But value, see, when most people think value is teaching and providing lots of content and giving away the quote unquote secrets. Okay. So yeah, that's value. But here's the problem when you do that. The problem when you give away value is, first of all, I firmly believe that when people do not pay for something, they really don't value it as much. So it kind of loses its value. Like, how often have we downloaded free reports? Like, I got a full hard drive with free reports. Now, the truth is, I probably haven't read 80% of them.
80?
But
it means you're at 20%. Well, you're way ahead of me.
Maybe I'm being more generous. Yeah, maybe I haven't read, 90 or 95%. The truth is that, like, when you opt in for a free report, you have intention of reading it, but you download it and you move on to something else. And the reason you move on to something else is because it's free, and therefore you don't put a lot of value on it. But I guarantee you, if you paid $1,000 for that information, you're probably going to crack it open and at least start reading it.
You may not finish it, but you'll start.
If it's me, I'll finish it, but most people will at least crack it open. All right. So that's the whole thing, is that when you provide, when you hard teach, when you actually give away all the goodies in your emails, or just give them away, I don't care if it's on Facebook, through Facebook Lives or whatever, people just don't value it, number one. Number two, let's face it, we're in business to make money, right? I mean, I got into it to make money. And in fact, I wrote an email about it this morning, that I'm not going to apologize for the fact that I got into this to make money. It's not my only driver, but it's one of my primary drivers. And so the only way we're going to make money is if we sell stuff. But if you give everything away in your email or in other ways that you distribute your content, why are people going to buy from you?
Well, there's really no reason for them to do so, obviously. Not only because, actually, this is something that I really want to throw in there. Not only because you'll give them all your content for free. That, I think, won't stop people from buying from you. What I think happens there is you sort of condition them to expect it for free, which is not about the mere content itself, but more about why would I pay you if you've conditioned me, you made me expect to get everything for free.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And so the question is, so what is value? Because I did say that you provide value. And so your question is, so what is value? Well, value to me is something called entertainment. Because the truth is that we as human beings, we really put a lot of value on entertainment. And you don't have to go very far to see that. Look at movie theaters when a new movie comes out. People rush to go spend $10, $15, $20, whatever, depending on where you live, to go see a movie, right? And if you have a family of 5 like I do, it can be like $100 to go see, or $70 to $100 depending on the movie theater to go see that movie. Okay, so. Yeah, you go see concerts. Just the other day, or last Friday, I was at a concert downtown Detroit. I'm from Michigan, from Detroit. So we went downtown Detroit to Fox Theater, and these 2 guys came to perform called the Piano Guys. Amazing. One plays the piano, the other guys plays cello. They play old classics mixed with modern music, with rock and just and hits, and they mix it all up. It's really cool. And the theater has 5,000 seats. It was completely sold out. It was booked. This was on a Friday night. The parking's like $25. The tickets to get in the door, the cheapest were $50 or $60, and it went all the way up to $150. And people would spend it to go and sit there for 2 hours to watch 2 guys play cello and piano to be entertained. I mean, people spend money to be entertained. And so if you can provide some of that entertainment in your emails without them having to spend $100, to me, that's value.
Yeah, and I think, in our society today, and I think it's only going to get quote unquote worse in the future, is that celebrities and entertainers, including sports and music and theater and stuff like that, they're the ones who are going to be getting paid the most. So if you can combine your marketing with entertainment value, there's really no way you can lose. No way you can lose that way.
Absolutely. And, I'll give you a perfect example, because I was thinking about this as I was kind of wrapping my head around what we're going to talk about today. I knew we were going to get to the subject of value. So I thought about this recently. I'm not going to name any names, but I'm on a lot of lists. And so there's these 2 guys, and they sell very similar products. Okay, and it's a subset of a marketing niche, let's say. And I've been on both of these guys' lists for a long time, like at least a decade. Okay, and this is something I've noticed very recently. Both are very good. Okay, and both have very good information, and both have very good products. One guy sends daily emails that are like what we're talking about, entertainment, and we can dive into that a little bit more on exactly what that entertainment is. But basically, they're very entertaining style emails. And of course, he has a mix of products in there as well. So he combines entertainment with marketing, which we call infotaining, right? Information and value and valuable entertainment. So it's infotaining. And the other guy, he just sends an email every once in a while, and it's pure content, like a typical, newsletter style email that just point 1, point 2, point 3. It's very long. It's got a lot of great stuff in it, like he teaches, and it's good stuff. It's very valuable stuff. But here's what I noticed. The first guy, I must have spent about $2,000 with the guy, or more, at least $2,000, okay, from products and courses that I bought over the years. And the other guy, I thought that I actually spent money with him. What I realized is that when I bought a program about a month ago from him, that was the first thing I actually bought from him, because I own a book that I bought from Amazon from this guy, through this guy. And I thought that actually I had his stuff, but I didn't. I only had the book that I bought from Amazon. I never even bought. I've been on this guy's list for 10 years. The first time I bought something was a month ago, and it was like less than $100.
Even though you subscribe and you
yes,
admire what he's doing.
Stuff. Yes, and arguably his stuff is actually better than the other guys.
But he's not making you any offers, is he? I mean,
it's
your income is directly proportionate to the amount of offers you're going to make to your audience.
Yes, it's kind of hidden in the emails. It's not. He doesn't directly come out and make an offer like the other guy. And
think what it communicates
10 times more of my money with the other, or actually 20 times more of my money with the other guy, because he's entertaining and he made an offer.
Exactly. And think about what it communicates too, because if you are pulling a punch on your marketing by not making an offer any chance you get in a very, in a proper way, in a way that makes sense, of course, not just by purely just pitching all the time, but more so by building up to it, getting them dressed up, and then, showing them where to go next. What does that communicate about you and your belief in your product? Because if you're not, like, this is the example I love giving. Imagine your neighbor has, a 12-year-old daughter who has stage 2 kidney cancer, and just so it happens you came across a solution. It's a machine that you install in someone's home, and it has like a 70%, because nothing is ever 100%. So it has a 70% chance of curing anyone of cancer, at least for the next few years. Just like that. Okay, I don't know the mechanism, but let's just assume that's what you have. So how aggressive would you be knowing that there's a 70% chance you can help him save his daughter's life, even though that machine requires for him to remortgage his home to pay you, say, $50,000 because it's really expensive? So if you are a marketer, and if you have healthy beliefs about money, selling, and you really want to help this guy, you're going to be throwing bricks at his windows. You're going to be knocking on his door every day. You're going to be doing whatever you have to do to get him to pay attention and to listen to your proposal, because you know that the end result potentially can be either extending his daughter's life for another 10 years or curing her and giving them a life that they can enjoy together. So, a lot of
Absolutely.
people don't take
Absolutely.
that approach.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. And, I think it stems from people are just, they're afraid. John Carlton has a phrase, right? They're selling from their heels.
Back of their heels, yep.
Right? People just feel like because sales has such a negative connotation. And so I'm fortunate that I come from the world of direct sales before getting into direct response and internet marketing, is that I learned how to sell. And what you just described, that's pretty much how I felt when I was sitting down with people. I sold financial products and services, and one of our core products was life insurance, where you basically sit down with somebody and you'd sell them a life insurance policy that really there's no benefit to them. The benefit is to their family. So if they die, their family gets to cash in. The idea behind it, really quickly, because I don't want to get off on that tangent, but the idea is that if you're a breadwinner and if you make money and something happens to you tomorrow and you're gone, your income is gone, but you still have obligations. You still have a family and kids that still need that income that is now gone. And so your life insurance policy is kind of like an income replacement. That's what we used to call it. It's income replacement. And so as a 20-year-old, I would go sit down with people who were 45 and I would sell them that stuff. And that's where I learned how to communicate what you just said, right? Be that way, where I knew I had something that is of importance to that family, and I had to get their attention. I had to get them to see it the way that I saw it and transfer that belief. And so, yeah, you have to develop that with your product. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting you mentioned this word belief. I was just watching the recordings of Gary Bencivenga's 100 seminar, which I consider to be one of the most advanced, I'd say, and really in-depth copywriting trainings for anyone to see. And, he talks about the whole concept of belief and proof, selling on proof. And he says that, no one buys without belief. And the greater their level of belief, the more likely they are to buy. And he goes into like 12 different strategies on how to create belief, even if you don't necessarily have like income-proof screenshots to shove down people's throats. So yeah, the belief is absolutely necessary. But what is underestimated is how much belief you need to have in order to convince someone else or inspire someone else, is the word I like to use better than convincing. Like the belief you must have in order to get the other person to buy into your ideas and, of course, into your products.
Absolutely. Well, you have to sell yourself first, unless you're a sociopath, which some people are, and that's fine. But if you're not a sociopath, you have to develop that belief. You have to have empathy for people. You really have to get into your prospects' shoes, no matter what you sell. This is again something I learned in direct. It's amazing how there's so much correlation between face-to-face selling and selling through emails and sales copy online. And if you have that experience, it's great because a lot of that translates. I didn't immediately grasp that, but it took me some time to really understand that I have this vast experience with face-to-face selling. And so anyway, so you have to develop empathy, right? You have to put yourself in the shoes of your prospects and really understand what their pains and what their struggles are and what they're going through. When you do, you'll be able to communicate in a much more effective way. You'll be able to, like you said, inspire them. Because, yeah, I don't like the word convince or twisting arms or whatever. You are inspiring people. That's what you're doing. You're inspiring people with your words and with your words, with what you say and how you say it.
Yeah, with the words, with the energy. And, it's really interesting because you mentioned you have to sell yourself, right? We use that word as if you really have to sit down in front of a mirror and start talking to yourself and selling. That's actually something that I've done many times, especially when I've procrastinated about big life decisions. For example, recently, I've relocated my family to Canada, and it took me about 5 years to make the decision. It took me another 2 years to get the papers going. And the thing about it was, I remember clearly when I started working with my coach, probably a person who's been influencing my life in one of the most significant ways in the last few years, Tom Beal. He actually asked me, like, what do I want? Like one of those big things that I really want, but I never get around to doing it. And I said, look, I want my daughter and my son to grow up in North America. I want them to have more opportunities. I want them to have the freedom. I don't want them to grow up in a country that's always in a state of war. I want them to have, just a better life. Same way that my parents wanted for me to have a better life when they moved from Ukraine to Israel, which was really a step up. Now, the thing about it was that for the longest time, I didn't do anything to take the action. And then he said, you know what? Why don't you make a list of 100 reasons why you absolutely must do this? What's going to happen to your life if you don't do this? What's going to happen to your life when you do this? What are some of the benefits that are going to happen when you take action and so on? And I literally did that. I sat down, took me about 2 weeks of on and off kind of effort in between things. Sometimes I would take the list with me to the bathroom and think, about it there. So I made a list of 100 reasons why I had to do this. And lo and behold, within 2 months, I found a lawyer. Within 3 months, we filed the papers, and now we're here, right? So I literally had to sell myself, exactly the way it sounds, sell myself in order to make that happen. And whatever the beliefs you guys have about money or success or selling or anything, related to just getting rich that are getting in the way, and I'm sure you know what these beliefs are, I'd recommend making that list yourself, like the reasons why you have to make it happen. Absolutely.
That's fantastic. That's a great story. I actually didn't realize that you live in Canada. So we're neighbors because I'm like half an hour from a Canadian border.
That's right. You're in Detroit. That's right.
Yeah.
Yo, it's Igor. If you're loving the content, hop on over to listbuildinglifestyleshow.com for more free training and a free transcript of this episode. Oh, and I'd really appreciate if you logged into iTunes and rated the show. It really helps. Thanks. Awesome. So let us go ahead and circle back to another reference you've made, which is to say that you were driving traffic. And you were building a list, and then when Google shut you down, all of a sudden you start discovering that your list was an untapped gold mine, that you weren't monetizing your list nearly as well as you should have, right?
That's right.
Now that's another big revelation, at least for me. I've had a lot of people when they discovered what I do, and as you know, I sell solo ads, I sell traffic, I help people build email lists, and they always told me, Igor, why do you only sell lists in the make money online space or network marketing space or whatever? I'm like, I don't know, because I'm good at it. Why not? And they're like, well, you should start selling traffic in the weight loss space, in the forex space, in the back pain relief space, bed bug space. Like, they start making up niches for me, and the idea of going, we'd call it horizontal, right? Going sideways with the business wasn't as attractive to me as going deeper and just taking my market, my tribe, and serving my tribe with more products and more services, solving more problems for them. Now, as a result, that created massive growth for me. In fact, compared to about 4.5 years ago, our business, I want to say 20x'd, not just 10x'd. And that has been a major concept in our business that we've been utilizing to kind of deepen our connection with the customer. So you've noticed probably the same, and you've been writing emails to the exact same audience for years now in the network marketing space. So perhaps you could share with us your philosophy when it comes to really maintaining that relationship with your audience, discovering new opportunities within your list. How would you go about, creating a new product, if at all? And, when you do, how would you test the idea? So basically, I want to get into the back office, if you will, right? And then want to, see your lab. How do you go about creating all these exciting ideas and new income streams?
Sure. So, yeah, I think there's a lot to be said about what you mentioned about being, going wide versus going deep. And because I come from a different industry originally, I always had this idea of multiple streams of income, which I think that whole notion is kind of, it's over exaggerated and it's kind of glorified. But the truth is that you want to focus on one thing. I tried doing multiple things at the same time, and to a degree I still do, but it's very difficult to spin multiple plates and be good at it. So I think, if you focus on one niche, on one thing, you can be so much better than trying to do 3 or 4 things at the same time and be mediocre at best. Let's put it that way. So what do we do? First of all, I know this market. Like, if you're going to write to your audience, you have to. This is how I approach this, right? You have to really, really, really get to know your audience. Fortunately for me, with what I'm doing on a daily basis with emails, I not only know this market well, I was this market for a very long time. So in a way, I'm writing to myself, not currently, but to myself from about 12, 13 years ago. Okay, and that helps. Okay, that helps because I understand that mindset. You really, there's a saying in copywriting that you have to be able to enter the conversation going on in your prospect's head, right? I think Robert Collier said that. And you really have to know what your audience is thinking, right? If you're going to write something that's going to inspire them to take action, especially today when there's so much noise in the marketplace. There's always been noise, but today, there's more noise than ever before. With Facebook, people are on Facebook. They get notifications all the time. There's notifications to their phones. There's notifications to their desktops. It's crazy, right? So you have to be able to get their attention. And if you want to be able to get their attention, you have to know what's going on in their head, right? So it all starts off with the first email. Like, when somebody gets on your list, I call this your handshake email. Like, this is your, there's a saying that you never get a second chance to make the first impression. And so that first email that you send kind of sets the tone for the relationship and for positioning. It positions you in a certain way, and it lets them know what you believe, if you open yourself up. And and tell them, well, what kind of value they can expect from you, what you provide, and it sets the tone for everything moving forward. And if you do it right, they're going to start looking forward to your emails. Now, of course, I did it wrong. You mentioned that you also burned your list Igor, in the beginning, and I think most people do. So it's never too late to start over. I mean, it's never too late to send a new handshake email. But you have to create an email, and you have to position yourself as a leader, as the expert, as someone who's going to lead them out of the pain that they're in and into the so-called promised land with whatever your product does. Okay. And so that's where it starts for me. And it really begins with building that like and trust, that know, like, and trust factor, right? You have to, because people will not do business with anybody that they don't trust. And so if you want people to trust you, then you have to open up and you have to reveal a little bit of yourself, and you have to share stories. You don't have to tell them your entire life story, but you have to share your story. I'll give you an example. When we started talking early on, and you asked me about email marketing, I gave a very brief story about my Google AdWords experience, right? I was driving traffic from Google, and I said, picture this. I think I used the words picture this. I have a new house, 3 kids, 2 6-month-old babies. I'm the sole breadwinner, and car payments, this, that, and the other, and all of a sudden my income is gone, right? And so when I said that, when I shared that, you listening to this, you picture this, right? You immediately, you feel a little bit of my pain, and I'm being a little bit vulnerable. And that creates a bond between you and the listener, the person sharing the story and the person on the other end receiving the story. And that's what you have to do in your emails. You have to open up and you have to share a little bit of yourself. And that's how I approach a lot of my emails.
Yeah, I agree with that concept, by the way. Like, I notice that anytime I open up and quote unquote lead by vulnerability, there's actually a whole book about it. It's called Dare to Lead, that Dennis has been telling me, Dennis, my business partner, has been telling me to read it for like ages now. Basically, the concept is the more you open up and the more you're not afraid to appear as a failure, the more you're not afraid to be judged, the more you're just genuinely opening up, and not to make it sound like you just want to tell your sob story to everybody. No, just kind of share the real honest feelings that you have and the experiences that you've gone through, even if they have seemingly no relation whatsoever to what you're selling, even though you can always tie it in using good copy. The response always goes up for me. Anytime I write about any kind of personal experience, the response always goes up. And it's almost like sometimes I feel that my market craves that. Sometimes, I actually been to this seminar earlier this year, and one of my good customers, somebody who gave me several $1,000s, somebody who listens to this pod, probably listening to this episode right now. So Terrence, if you're listening, we're saying hi from Toronto here. So, Terrence told me that, he says, look, the interviews are great. Like, the interviews you're doing with your guests are great, but the spotlight is on the guests. I really love those episodes when you're just opening up and tell stories about how your dad used to condemn you about trying to make it online and not getting a real job. How your mom didn't understand why you didn't give her $500 that month and instead spent it on a laptop, to build your business. So those real stories, especially if they're related to your family or any kind of personal experience, end up, creating more response and have a much bigger emotional impact, and therefore create more sales, because sales are always emotional, than any sort of factual teaching you'll ever do. Absolutely.
Well, we are hardwired to listen and pay attention to stories. We crave that. That's part of the entertainment value, right? And so when you tell a story, first of all, immediately people start paying attention, right? Because if you're, and I did that on the stage a few years ago, just because I was talking about stories. It was a very brief talk. And I said, and I opened up with this, I'm in Las Vegas last month. It's 5 a.m. in the morning. My alarm goes off. And like you could literally hear a pin drop, because everybody's looking like, where am I going with this? Because the minute you start telling a story, people start paying attention. Now, you said something about, not telling your sob stories and all of that. That's true, right? You don't want to get into like all the drama, and you don't need to tell your entire life story, but you can use many small stories to make a point and create a connection with your audience. And you can use them as teaching stories and as selling stories. And I believe that it's the best way to sell is by telling a story, because you can explain and make analogies and create metaphors in the story. And that's the ultimate way to sell, in my opinion.
Yeah, stories are pretty incredible. In fact, we got a whole product about that. I released a course on story selling. It's called the Ultimate Bridge Page System, and you guys can check it out at bridge.igorsolitz.com. And story. The reason I love stories so much is because the claims made in the stories don't ever get questioned. In other words, like if I approach you, Vitaly, and I say, so if you sign up with my insurance policy, I'll get you like a 3% better return than, Sun Life does. And, that's a claim. It's not backed up by any proof, and there's no reason for it to exist other than for me to sell you something. Therefore, the brain automatically questions that. But if I, sit down with you to have a drink or whatever, or just have a phone call with you, and I tell you a story about how, I have this friend, right, who signed up with Sun Life and then discovered 6 months later that their return on the policy is 3% lower than this other company's return, and then tried to back out of the policy and couldn't because now he was up to, in a 10-year commitment. All of a sudden, the brain doesn't even think about questioning the claim. The brain thinks, oh, what if that happened to me? Therefore, now the prospect is much more receptive to the actual offer, if there ever is one. And stories is definitely one of those things that totally worth mastering, but most people have no freaking clue how to do it, and they don't even try, don't they? They're just like, Vitaly, I'm just, I'd love to use stories in my marketing, but I'm just not a great storyteller.
Yep. So here's what I would say to someone like that, because I'm glad you brought up insurance. This is again going back to when I discovered all of this, when I really learned the power of stories and pretty much of how you communicate in the most effective way. And so when I used to sell life insurance, like I said, it's not the easiest thing to sell, right? Especially when you're young and you're selling to people twice your age. And typically I would go through all the benefits and all of that. But we had a situation at our office, true story. My friend, he was the agent. He sat down with the family, and the guy didn't want to buy the insurance policy. He wanted to think about it, because that's the number one objection you get in sales. I want to think about it. And if you're selling online, believe me, that's one of the biggest objections you're facing, even though you're not hearing it, but they're thinking, I'll think about it, right? Which is why we do some of the things that we do with urgency and deadlines and all that. Anyway, so he sat down with his family, and the guy wanted to think about it. And here's what my friend said. He said, look, while you're thinking about it, here's what we can do. Let's take this application, and it'll give you conditional coverage while the policy is going through the underwriting process, okay? And you will be covered up until the moment that I deliver the policy. And even after that, you will still have a 20-day free look period. So for 20 more days, you can think about it after the policy gets issued. And if you want to cancel it, you'll get the refund of your premium and all of that, right? But this way, you're covered for like a month or a month and a half while you're thinking about it. And so he convinced / inspired the guy to do this, okay? While the guy was thinking about it. He took the application, gave him conditional coverage. Long story short, 5 days later, the guy, he's 41 years old, he comes home and drops dead of a heart attack, okay?
Wow.
New in this country. They've only lived in the country for a couple of years. They're from Russia. His wife, so he's 41, his wife is like in the late 30s, 2 kids. She was stay-at-home and stay-at-home mom. No income. His income is gone. And my friend, through that conditional coverage that he gave him, delivered a check for $150,000 to this family. They were able to move out of a bad neighborhood, buy a little house in a much nicer neighborhood. And yes, I mean, obviously it was a big tragedy, but financially, they weren't devastated. They were emotionally devastated, but financially, my friend basically saved them through what he did. And so I took that story, exactly what I just told you, and I used to tell that story at every single kitchen table appointment for years until I left that business. That's how I sold life insurance.
No wonder you've been the top producer.
I didn't even let them tell me I want to think about it. Now, of course, still some people said no, and you never bet 100, right? But most qualified people would at least go through that part and do the application, because I would just simply say, here's what we're going to do next. I would take the application and let me explain to you how this works. And when I would tell them, let me explain to you how this works, I would start telling the story. And by the time we're done, it's like, it's just, it was a natural progression of the sales process, is just take out the application and do it. I didn't have to ask them. I didn't have to hard close them. I told them a story. And this can work in with any product in any market. You just have to, again, empathize and find a good story. It doesn't have to be as dramatic. I mean, this is pretty dramatic, but it doesn't have to be that dramatic. But a story, yeah.
Look, this is a pretty good story, let's face it. And, obviously, it's hard to kind of come up with a similar one if you're not selling life insurance. But you can probably scare people into buying from you if they have a genuine fear. Again, the key here is not to try to make up a fear, but rather tap into a fear they already have.
Exactly.
Right? Because, even if they're already making money, I'm thinking about traffic naturally. And I'm thinking, okay, so if I were to model that story, I was thinking, okay, so maybe they have a business where they're the ones driving the traffic and driving the business. By going out there into social media maybe, or optimizing things and, kind of maybe appearing on events and stuff like that. And what if they drop dead tomorrow? All that income is going to stop. The family ain't going to get more income. So what if, I position my traffic as an automated solution that runs without, the breadwinner having to tweak it every day, So that could be a great angle. And
that could be a great angle for sure. There's another angle, is my story with the Google account, which actually a lot of people can relate to, whether it's Google or Facebook. Yes, you can. I mean, everybody who's listening to this, I'm sure, knows somebody that lost the account or has heard of somebody losing a Facebook ad account or Google AdWords account in the past, right? And so if you're depending on one source of traffic, it can be gone. And if you're not building a list, you're building somebody else's asset, which can be taken away from you at any time. Your Facebook page can be gone, right? Your Facebook group could be gone. You don't control that. You do not own that. But your list, you own it.
Yeah.
And so that's a story about you losing an account. Let's say you didn't lose an account. You could say, you know what, I was just listening to like if I was to write an email about this, this is totally, stream of consciousness right now, Igor. Right? If I was writing an email about this and I was a listener and I was selling a traffic course or a list building course, I could say, just this morning I was listening to a podcast and the guest speaker or the person being interviewed talked about losing an account, and I would retell that story very quickly and say, I got thinking that most people today rely on social media as a platform to drive traffic and to build their relationship with their list, and it could be gone just like that.
Yeah, and this is a really good concept too, and this is probably going to be the last thing we're going to cover before we have to leave. But this is brilliant because you're talking about a concept of borrowing another expert's or another person's story and leveraging that as proof element for your marketing. I did it many times. In fact, I do have a story of my own where I lost 6 Facebook ads accounts, which is why I hate Facebook so much. And talk a lot about that. But recently Mike Dillard actually he emailed and he said that he's discontinuing the guarantee he had on one of his programs where he would give you your money back if you actually followed through. Because his Facebook ad customer acquisition cost has literally doubled overnight from $400 to $800. Guess what? I totally pimped that story. I use it on the podcast. I use it on my webinars. I use it in my emails. I totally used it to remind people about what happens when you're trying to suck on Facebook's titty.
Yep.
All right,
do it, but just be aware that there's another opportunity that exists, and that it could also go away. Your existing opportunity can go away, and so absolutely, you can use your own stories, you can use somebody else's stories. But yeah, there's one takeaway that I would love for people to walk away with is use stories, because they are very, very powerful.
Awesome. And, you're a prime example of how you take something as ordinary as talking about, life insurance, something as boring as that, and you really think outside the box in the way you present it. It's really cool. Another way I've seen it done, actually I've been pitched on it, it was to position life insurance as a financial tool where, it's actually, turns out it's tax deductible and it's not taxable. until you actually, pass or something like that, or something like that. Like, it allows you to avoid the estate tax. Basically, there's some kind of tax loophole related to life insurance. And I've been, on a three-way meeting where the guy actually offered me life insurance as a financial tool, which, was amazing. I mean, I was just there enjoying the presentation. He had he nailed it. Like, he had a down path. By the way, I could see the dance, that he was doing, like drawing things on paper, pre-framing my objections as I was about to say something. He was like, "So you're probably thinking," and he would say what I was thinking. So yeah, the guy was incredible. Anyway,
I will tell you that, because people ask me, like, so how do you get good at copywriting and all of that? And there are so many books that you can read, and you had some amazing copywriters, I know, on your podcast. But I will say that, if you really, really want to get good, go get a sales job. Go sell. And I'm not talking about a retail job. Like, go sell something for a few months, door to door. Go sell vacuum cleaners. Go sell life insurance. I mean, it's a longer process because you got to get a license and all of that. But the experience that you will get with face-to-face interaction with people, and being able to anticipate people's objections, and knowing how to sell in a face-to-face environment where you really don't have time to think about your next word or your next phrase, and you can't hit the delete key either. It really gives you something to that you can translate into copywriting. So I know most people aren't going to do that, but yeah, I'm going to put that out there, that if somebody really wants to master this, go get some sales experience. It will come in handy.
Yes, I agree with you. It's totally priceless to do that. In fact, pretty much every major copywriting mentor I've ever studied, Halbert, Carlton, Kennedy, pretty much everyone talks about the importance of having door-to-door experience when you're entering the copywriting world, because all it is salesmanship in print. Alrighty, so Vitaly, I know you're busy writing copy for Elite Marketing Pro. You're the head honcho over there. You're responsible for all their sales letters, emails, scripts, and everything. So it's a handful, I'm sure. But the question I'm wondering is, if anyone wants to work with you, maybe anyone wants to hire you to write their copy, or maybe they want you to consult them on their work right now, or anything else out there related to helping other people make money. Do you do any kind of work consulting, copywriting? Do you take on any clients? And if so, how would anyone go find more information about that, as well as find a way to work with you?
Outside of Elite Marketing Pro, currently I am not taking on any customers or any clients. I have another project that I'm working on, but I do have a website where people, if they're interested, they can kind of follow what I'm doing. It's at successthread.com. All one word. Success is in the word success. Thread, THREAD.com, and it's pretty much geared for home business entrepreneurs and network marketers, but you can check out what I'm doing with that. And if I ever do open up spots for consulting or anything like that, I'll be letting people on my list know about it.
Nice. All right. So you heard him, guys. It's successthread.com. If you want to check out what Vitaly has got going on right now, but don't expect much, because he is very busy making Elite Marketing Pro a lot of money, which has been for the last 10 years. So with that said, I just wanted to thank you again for taking the time to rap with me about list building, email marketing, direct response. It's probably one of those things I can talk about just for hours and days on end, even if I'm not getting paid for it. So
me too. Me too.
Yeah, I can tell. You had a lot to say today, and probably not the last time that we're going to be inviting you on the show. You know exactly what you're talking about. You've got years of experience behind your belt. You've got tons and tons of winners and controls, and just overall a wealth of knowledge when it comes to email marketing. So Vitaly, thank you very much for being here, and until next time we chat, have a good one. Thank you for tuning in to the List Building Lifestyle. Get access to previous episodes, the transcript of today's show, and exclusive content at our website at listbuildinglifestyleshow.com. Also, don't forget to claim your free seat at the traffic workshop I'm conducting this week, where I'm showing how I built a list of 4,331,656 email subscribers without losing money, and how my clients are putting anywhere from 50 to 500 new leads per day on their list at a profit without any list building experience. Just go to igor.cx to claim your free seat now.